everybody, it's Jenny, and today I'm going to be sharing the process video for my second design team project for the Thoughtful Studio. And I'm going to be making a personal sized traveler's notebook using the Tess-A-Penpal collection. And I'm going to start off by looking through all the papers in the collection and then deciding which patterns I like best for the notebook. So for the construction of the traveler's notebook, you'll need roughly 6 to 7 different patterns, or depending on how you'd like to do it, you could have as many or as little as you want. But I'm going to use one for the dashboard insert, the cover, the pen loop, the insert covers, and then whatever paper you'd like to fill the inserts with. So now that I've really looked through all the available papers, I decided I'm going to go with this Happy Mail pattern for the cover, and I'm going to start by cutting this down to 7 by 8 inches. Next, I'm going to pick out the 3 patterns I want to use for my insert covers. And then once I have those, I'm going to cut them all down to 6 5/8 by 7 1/4 inches. So this piece here is going to make up 1/2 of the dashboard, and you'll see later in the video that I end up trimming it because I originally cut it too big. But the final measurements for that piece are going to be 3 1/4 by 6 3/8 inches. This heart pattern is going to make up the interior pockets, and you cut 2 pieces at 3 1/2 by 4. And then for the piece that'll be turned into the pen loop, you cut a 1 3/4 inch square. For the papers that are going to go inside the notebook to make up each of the little booklets, I like to trim those down a tiny bit smaller than the covers so that when you fold them in half, they don't spill out the sides. But if that does happen, you can just take a straight edge and an X-Acto knife and trim that off. The measurements for those will be 6 5/8 by 7 1/8. Onto the laminating pouches, I use the Scotch brand thermal laminating pouches. To make the dashboard, I take a laminating pouch and cut it down to roughly 7 inches tall, and then set that aside. And the piece I just cut, I'm going to use to make the pocket side of the dashboard. So I trimmed that down to 3 1/4 by 6 5/8. And then I take the two pieces and put the shiny sides together and slip that into the larger dashboard piece up against the seam that's already sealed. You line that up at the very top, and there should be about 1/4 inch at the bottom. And so the bottom of the pocket lines up with the bottom of the cardstock piece. Before I start laminating, I'm going to use the ephemera pieces from the Tess-A-Penpal collection to decorate the cover and both sides of the dashboard. I use a little bit of liquid glue just to hold everything in place while I run it through the laminator. To make the pockets, I take my two pocket pieces and put them back to back and just trim off one of the corners to make a slight curve. And then I tack them down with a little spot of glue in each of the 3 corners. So before laminating, we're going to mark the spine of the notebook at 3 1/4, 4 inches, and 4 1/4. And then once it's laminated, we'll go ahead and reinforce those score lines again. And then pulled out another laminating pouch and cut that down to 8.5 by 7.5 for the cover. So for the pen loop, I'm going to use my envelope punch board, and I'm going to take the 1 3/4 inch square and just center it the best I can and punch the top and the bottom. One final step before laminating, I use a corner punch to round the corners. put all the pieces through the laminator a couple of times just to make sure everything's really sealed around the edges. And then for the cover piece, to open the pockets, I take an X-Acto knife and lightly trace around the pocket edges, careful not to cut through the cover. And once I've got that done, I run it through the laminator again. I trim down all the pieces as close as I can without cutting through the seal. To open the pocket on the dashboard, because I had it lined up at the very top, I'm just able to trim off the top of the plastic piece to create the opening. I use a corner punch again to round the corners. For the pen loop, I score it every 1/8 inch and then use my bone folder to get it to start curling. And then I move on to the booklets and I just line everything up and fold it in half. And some people staple these, but I like to reuse my insert covers, so I just leave them. Then I use a bone folder to reinforce the fold. Now I'm going to punch the holes through the cover where the elastic is going to be fed through, and I'm going to use my big bite from We Are Memory Keepers. And I'm going to use the 1/8 setting and punch 3 holes at the top on each of the score lines, pretty close to the top, but just under where the cardstock ends. And then I do the same thing at the bottom, and then I add 1 hole to the very middle on the middle score line. I pick an elastic that matches the colors of the papers, and I start by unraveling a bit of the elastic. Then I weave it through the holes starting from the back of the book. leaving a tail at each end, and then tying those two tails in the middle. Once I have the elastic where it's not too tight but not too loose. For the piece that holds the book together, I wrapped it around the cover, again making sure it's not too tight, not too loose, and then I cut it and tied it in a knot. And then I fed it through the center hole from the inside. Once all the elastics are in place, I go ahead and start adding the dashboard and the inserts. To add the pen loop, I take 1/8 inch double-sided tape and put that on each side of the piece that I made. And then we're gonna go ahead and see where you want your pen to be. And then I attach it to the dashboard. Once I've got it where I think I like it the best, I secure it with some mini staples. And that's it! A completely customized Tess-A-Penpal pocket traveler's notebook that I can fit in my purse and take with me. I ended up using the scraps and extra ephemera to make a coordinating bookmark and paper clips, and I think it's so cute! For any additional information and written instructions, you can visit my blog at cutiepatootieCrafts.com. And don't forget to check out Thoughtful Studio for these lovely papers. And if you're interested in purchasing them, there's a 15% off coupon in the description below. So thank you so much for watching. Bye!